Teysa Karlov versus Talrand the Sky Summoner. Well, we need to hope for more mana, but we're on the draw, so there's every chance that we'll get into another white source. Our opponent gets into the Meek Stone. We're playing a lot of dorks in this deck, so I'm not really too worried about that. Let's start off with... we don't need Viscera straight away, so let's go for the Bloodstained Maya, and we'll get out a Godless Shrine. Then a Think Twice from our opponent. That has flashback of 3 to draw a card. Let's just go for the Stoneforge Mystic here, I think. Going for a Skull Clamp. And hopefully our opponent doesn't hold up any counter magic. Well, the first thing they do is play a land and pass the turn, so if they've got counter magic, let's force them into it. Vindicate on... well, that one stands out like a sore thumb, so we'll go after that basic. If they've got counter magic, they pretty much have to use it here. Well, that might point us in the direction of them not having it. Not going to swing in with Stoneforge just in case they've got a flash creature, although it doesn't really matter if we lose Stoneforge at this point. Going in for Sol Ring this time, followed by Talrand. We've got Swords to Plowshares to get rid of that, so the problem is, yeah, if they get into another land, they can just replay Talrand straight away. But we've got Toxic Deluge if we are desperate. Yeah, so we go Swords to Plowshares now, then we'll Clamp and equip to the Stoneforge, and then if we have to Toxic Deluge next turn, at least we draw into a couple of cards when Stoneforge dies, because we're missing lands here. And that's not what you want to do against a control player. Our opponent paws in on the Skull Clamp. They knew we had that because we had to show it to them with the Stoneforge. And then let's just hit them for 2 and pass straight over. And there's that land, so they can go straight in for their commander again. Instead, going for Walk the Eons. That is an extra turn. They didn't go for the buyback, obviously. So that might just be an Explore here in order to get another land down. Okay, going for Opt instead of their commander. That's interesting. Scry and draw. I think you'd want to try and stick your commander before going for an Opt. And then going for Jace's Sanctum, making instants and sorceries cost 1 less, and you scry whenever you cast one. So they might have something like Mana Leak in the hand that would only be 1 mana. Let's try and drop Teysa Ozar Scion here. And that lands, so let's just go in with the Stoneforge again. We're missing lands, like I said, so not a whole lot of anything we can do. Okay, what is that? Tap up to 2 creatures. Yeah, don't care about that. They get a scry with Jace's Sanctum, though. Doing all of this without their commander in play, so we're not exactly getting swarmed by drakes like we should be. And then out comes that Talrand. And we finally get into a land. Let's drop that immediately. And we will go for the Toxic Deluge. We only have to put 2 life into this. And that gets rid of our opponent's Talrand. Skull Clamp triggers. Oh, Grand Abolish is really good. We could go for a Clamp again to get rid of Teysa and draw 2 cards, but we've got a Sack Outlet in hand anyway, so we can always equip that to her. And then sacrifice it to the Viscera Seer, so let's just play that out and pass. Now our opponent is 2 mana away from getting their commander back out. Noetic Scales. At the beginning of each player's upkeep, return to its owner's hand each creature that player controls with greater power than the number of cards in their hand. Well, we've got plenty of cards in hand, so no need to worry there. It might make it difficult to keep a Wormcoil Engine in play, though. And we get into a Sol Ring of our own. Let's see if we can make this stick first of all. Well, that goes straight through. So why don't we try and stick our commander as well? Oh, there we go. Now, if nothing else to do, we might as well clamp on the Teysa Ozar Scion. And if we lose her in combat, then we lose her. Our opponent takes the hit for 3. Now, this thing actually affects our opponent as well, so if they empty their hand and get an army of drakes into play, then they're all going to be bounced back to the hand. River's Rebuke. Return all non-land permanents a target player controls to the hand. If we get into a land next turn, we can still go Sol Ring into Elspeth. And our opponent's overtapped there, so they're obviously not being too careful about the amount of cards they've got in hand. And we do get into that land, that's really good, so let's go Sol Ring. And we'll get down this Elspeth Sun's Champion whilst our opponent has no mana up. Go for the tokens, and then we're discarding, I think, the Wormcoil Engine. We could sacrifice it and then go for mere Retriever stuff. Yeah, we could do that. So let's actually get rid of the Teysa. Not necessarily the right play to do that because we've got Teysa and Elspeth. And we can get rid of our opponent's commander quite consistently there. In fact, very consistently. But I like the idea of playing around with Wormcoil Engine and mere Retriever. Now, an Exhaustion. Creatures and lands target opponent controls don't untap during the next untap step. So, typical grindy blue player, keeping us from doing anything. Then a Compelling Deterrence. Return a target non-land permanent to the hand. So, back comes Elspeth. We keep our soldiers, of course. And we get into an Ashen Rider. Let's just... We'll play out the Mere Retriever here. And then we're going to have to discard something. Well, let's swing in first. I think we just discard the Ashen Rider. That's 8 mana, isn't it? 2, 4, 6, 7 and 8. What do we exile with that? We could exile our opponent's commander if they get into it again. No, I think we'll just get rid of that. Tamiyo the Moon Sage for our opponent. And they drew a card per tapped creature that we control, so perhaps shouldn't have swung in with these soldiers. But we'll get rid of Tamiyo next turn at least. Then a Spawning Pit as well, so that's a sack outlet again. Do we just try going for Elspeth again? Let's swing in at the Tamiyo first. We'll just swing in the soldiers at Tamiyo, actually. I don't know if our opponent has the bounce attacking creatures thing. Okay, managing to rid ourselves of the Tamiyo. And then let's try and get more counter magic out of our opponent's hand with Grand Abolisher. That comes straight down, so still no counter magic by the looks of it. We'll finally crack this because we want more white. And let's drop our Teysa Karlov and our Viscera Seer. And now it is a patient rebuilding at the beginning. You need patience to play this deck. At the beginning of your upkeep, target opponent puts the top 3 cards into the graveyard. You draw a card for each land put in that way. Now a Time Ebb. Target creature on top of its owner's library. We actually could have gone for that on top of our library if I wasn't F6, because drawing cards with Skull Clamp is no problem. That assumes that we actually land the Skull Clamp though. Okay, first of all, let's swing in at our opponent. And then I think we have to clamp because we keep missing land drops here. This is turn 12. And we're not doing much of anything, nowhere near as much as we should be doing. And we're not getting into lands either. So again, we'll go for the clamp and finally get into a land. Then let's go for the Blood Artist. And we'll hold up D-Spark here, I think. Let's just go for clamp onto the Grand Abolisher. If our opponent wants rid of anything, they want rid of that. Going to mill here and see how many lands we get rid of. they clear Read the Bones, Austere Command and Hangerback Walker off the top. So all they've done there is get us 3 cards closer to a land. Now, and as foretold, yeah, getting rid of the Austere Command was really good by our opponent. Followed by a Talent of the Telepath. Reveal the top 7 cards. Cast an instant or sorcery. Let's see if they get into a tutor here. And as always, with Talent of the Telepath or any spell that steals instants and sorceries, they always get into a tutor. What else did they? There's Solemn. Henny, the Vamp Tutor, Land Tax, couple of lands, 3 lands actually. And what happens to the rest of those? They go on the bottom? No, into the graveyard, okay. So that gets rid of all those. Now obviously I don't know what our opponent went for, but I'm actually going to go for D-Spark on something here. Let's go for that thing because it's card draw. And getting rid of As Foretold is always good as well. Okay, we actually get into a land, that's really good. I think our opponent's probably gone for Mass Bounce here. So let's drop the Elspeth Sun's Champion. We will plus with that. Then let's put the Clamp onto the Soldier. We know our opponent's not going to do anything thanks to the Grand Abolisher. And I don't think we can get rid of our opponent just yet with a Viscera Seer. Let's Clamp again. Okay, getting into some mana and a Lightning Greaves. Why did our Grand Abolisher stay tapped, by the way? I don't know. Alright, we'll just swing in for 3 points of damage. Then we can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things killed off. And does that trigger on itself? Yes, it does, so that's 6. Taking our opponent down to 4. I think our opponent's got Mass Bounce here, so let's just Clamp with a token while we've got the chance. And yeah, just clearing a bunch of lands off the top is fine. We'll get rid of a Swamp. And that, and the Command Tower as well, because we can get a Plains out with this. And that's 1 less land to draw into. Then I think we've got... Oh, we might want protection from blue, actually. So let's get rid of the Wormcoil Engine. They put a Miracle on top of the library. So they'll get an extra turn after this, which is what they want. They want time to cast their commander and then do instants and sorceries, but are they going to get into a lot of instants and sorceries? They've only got 1 card in hand currently. Charter Course, draw 2 cards and discard unless you attack with a creature this turn, so draw 2 and discard, and they get a Scry there. Really made a lot of use out of Jace's Sanctum. And they discarded an island. Followed by Tidings, I think that is draw 3. Draw 4 with Tidings. So 4 mana, draw 4 cards and Scry. That's not bad, is it? Surprised they didn't cast their commander there though. And then they drop a land with 3 cards in hand. As Foretold gets another counter onto it, so they get a free spell most likely here. Dropping yet another land. Skywise Teachings. Whenever you cast a non-creature, you may pay 2 and get a Djinn Monk with flying. So that's another version of their commander pretty much. I mean, I think they can quite easily afford their commander here, but obviously they would prefer to go for Skywise Teachings. Words of Wisdom, draw 2 cards, then each other player draws a card. I've been seeing that a lot recently, actually. I've never seen that card until recently, and a lot of people have started running it out of nowhere. Looks to me like our opponent's trying to get into something very specific. They don't seem too desperate to get into their commander, deciding to pay the mana to get into a monk. Followed by Divination, draw 2 cards. And they do not have a mana doubler in place, so they don't have the mana to get another Djinn. And I don't know if they've cast a free spell with As Foretold yet. They can do this once a turn. Yeah, once each turn. So they can make use of it on their own turn and on ours. But they can't do anything on our turn thanks to Grand Abolisher. Now, and into the Royal, bouncing the Elspeth. Now, if we get down our Commander, we wouldn't have had to pay Commander tax had I have put her on top of the library, but that's by the by now. If we play our Commander, can we win? It'll be 2 life drained per creature that dies. 2, 4, 6, 8 and 10, yeah. And an Ancestral Vision from our opponent as well. Just seems to be a whole lot of treading water to me. If they had their Commander in play, they'd be getting an army of Drakes out, but they decided not to go for that for some reason. So finally, getting back round to our turn, let's just go for that. We'll crack for a land because I want to stop drawing into lands as best as I can. Now then, how much does our Commander cost? Oh, it's only 6. We've only cast it once before now, so let's get that into play. And then it's sacrifice a soldier. We drain our opponent twice and scry. Zulaport Cutthroat can definitely stay on top. In fact, we can draw into that. So let's go for the clamp onto the Mere Retriever. I don't think it's actually relevant here, but we'll draw 4 cards from the clamp anyway with our Commander in play. And also, Mere Retriever can get more than one thing back thanks to our Commander being in play, so we're actually seeing what we want to do with Teysa. It's right at the end of the game, but still. Wormcoil Engine as well we'll put back in hand. And we draw into our Zulaport Cutthroat, which I will play. Then let's just go for the clamp onto the Grand Abolisher with the last bit of mana, and then we'll sack Grand Abolisher. And that will drain our opponent for 4. With the 2 Aristocrat effects. And we'll draw a bunch of cards again. And Tragic Slip, don't care, can go on the bottom. And then, finally, sacrifice Zulaport Cutthroat, and Aristocrat, our opponent, out of the game. So finally, after getting around all the bounce and tapping and all that stuff, eventually decided to show off a little bit of what you can do with Teysa Karlov. That is the aim there, where we want to get into, well, dying effects basically, such as Skull Clamp, and we get multiple tokens with a Wormcoil Engine, multiple tokens with Hangerback Walker. I think this is a death trigger. Whenever a creature you control dies, you draw a card, yes, so a single creature, token or non-token, will draw us 2 cards with Teysa Karlov. Liliana Dreadhorde General's good enough on her own, but just wanting to double up death triggers basically, and Aristocrat wins are one of the most effective ways to win with Teysa Karlov. As you can see, we were doubling up our drain effects there, so every time one creature died, we were draining our opponent for 2 with each Aristocrat effect, so Blood Artist for 2 and the Zulaport Cutthroat for 2 as well. Bit of a grindy one, but that's how it is against Mono Blue. Hopefully you all enjoyed this Teysa Karlov game. I'm tribalkai on the EDH channel. Thank you for watching.